The Heart of Kindness. Afternoon sun hung low over the dusty Arizona highway as Luke Carson wiped sweat from his forehead. His small roadside garage, Carson Fix and Go, stood quiet except for the metallic clinks echoing from under a rusty pickup. Business had been slow for months, and Luke, 32, hardworking, honest, and painfully broke, was beginning to wonder if life would ever cut him a break. Just as he tightened the last bolt, the sharp roar of a motorcycle cut through the silence. He crawled out from beneath the truck and squinted toward the road. A sleek black bike coasted toward the shop, wobbling slightly, as if the rider struggled to control it. When it rolled to a stop, the engine coughed and died completely. The rider removed her helmet, shaking out a cascade of dark hair. She wore dusty jeans and a leather jacket, her face flushed from the heat. Luke blinked. She wasn't like the usual stranded travelers he saw on this forgotten road. "Hi," she said, pushing her hair behind her ear. "My bike, well, it just gave up on me." Luke dusted off his hands. "You're lucky it did it here. Further down the road, you'd be stranded in the desert." She smiled nervously. "I guess I am lucky today." He didn't know how true that statement really was. "Name's Luke," he said. "Let me take a look." "I'm Ava," she replied, watching as he pushed the motorcycle into the shade of the shop. She didn't mention the truth. Ava Kingsley, billionaire heiress to one of the largest tech empires in the country. She hadn't used her last name in weeks, not since she'd run away from the glamorous life she felt imprisoned in. She was searching for something real, something honest, something she doubted she'd ever find among people who bowed to her wealth. Luke knelt beside the bike, inspecting the engine. "Looks like your fuel injector's clogged. Shouldn't take long." Ava sat on an old stool, observing the way he worked, focused, patient, hands steady despite the heat beating down on them. He hummed lightly under his breath, a small habit of his that made her smile. "You're good at this," she said. He chuckled. "Been fixing engines since I was 12. My dad taught me. Shop stayed after he passed, and I try to keep it running." Ava noticed the tired look in his eyes, the kind of exhaustion that wasn't just physical. "Business tough?" Luke shrugged. "Town's dying. Highway diversion steals all the traffic now. Some days I don't get a single customer, but I'm doing my best." Something about the way he said it, quiet, humble, without self-pity, made her chest tighten. He stood after a few minutes. "You're good to go. Try not to push it too hard until you get to the next town." "How much?" she asked. Luke hesitated. Honestly, just $10. It was a small fix." Ava frowned. "10, really?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm not going to charge you more just because you're stuck in the middle of nowhere." If only he knew how many people had done exactly that to her before. She handed him the money, but something tugged at her heart. No man had ever treated her like she was just normal. No one looked at her without
Before she
dollar
could stop
signs in
herself,
their
she
eyes.
asked,
"Can I stay for a bit? I need to cool down before riding again." Luke nodded. "Of course. There's cold water in the cooler there. Sorry, no fancy drinks." Ava laughed. "Cold water sounds perfect." They sat on two old chairs outside the garage, watching dust swirl in the warm wind. Luke stole a glance at her. She was pretty. Not the flashy, polished kind of pretty, but natural, genuine. The kind of person who looked like she belonged anywhere, yet he sensed she came from nowhere like this. "What brings you out here alone?" he asked. Ava hesitated. "Just needed a break from everything. Needed to see the world without people knowing who I am." He nodded slowly, sensing the weight behind her words. "Sometimes distance is the only way to breathe." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world went quiet. Then her phone buzzed. She sighed but ignored it. "I'm not going back," she murmured. Luke raised an eyebrow. "Running away?" "Running toward something better," she corrected softly. A long pause settled between them, comfortable and warm. Finally, she asked, "Can I help out here for a bit? I don't know much, but I can hand you tools." Luke laughed. "You want to help me? Why?" She shrugged. "Feels nice to do something simple." So she helped him with the old pickup, passing wrenches, holding flashlights, asking questions. She ended up laughing more in an hour than she had in months. Luke found himself smiling more than usual, too. She was quick, curious, unafraid of grease smudges or sweat. When they finished, the sun was dipping behind the hills, painting the sky orange. Ava stood quietly. "Luke, thank you. Today meant more to me than you know." He wiped his hands and leaned against the bike. "I'm glad you stopped here. It gets lonely sometimes, working alone." Ava swallowed hard. She wanted to tell him everything, who she really was, why she was here, why meeting him felt like a moment she wasn't ready to walk away from. But before she could speak, a sleek black SUV screeched to a stop nearby. Two men in suits stepped out. "There you are, Miss Kingsley." Luke stared at her in shock. "Miss who?" Ava closed her eyes. The truth was out. The men hurried toward her. "Your father has been worried. The board is waiting. You can't disappear like this." Luke froze, understanding hitting him all at once. This woman, the one who handed him tools, laughed with him, sat with him in the heat, was a billionaire. Ava stepped closer to Luke, voice trembling. "I didn't want you to treat me differently." He looked into her eyes, quiet but honest. "I wouldn't have." For the first time in years, she believed someone. Ava touched his arm gently. "I'll come back," she whispered. "Not as a billionaire, as me." Luke nodded with a small,